Nobody else in society, and I do mean nobody else in society because you're still the same people who consider yourselves oppressed, would say that if you are oppressed, then you feel like white people are your enemy. No one else would allow their enemy to educate them. Nobody else would allow your enemy to have the most influence over their children. That just doesn't make any logical sense to me. Want to grow your business without spending a dime on ads? Head to www.thebusinessbully.com/without paid ads. Stop guessing, start dominating. Okay. Again, if you want to ask me a question, you can feel free. Dave@businessbullyshow.com. It's Ask Dave Anderson. And Mike from Philly says, what's the deal with education? Is it worth it? Well, that depends on how you look at worth it and what means the most to you. If you want to sit around at your dinner parties and tell everybody how many degrees you got, I mean, you could either do that or cosplay as a thermometer. That's not the issue here. We have all of these degrees, which basically in the United States education system means that you are one of the best people who can take in information, hold it long enough to get past the test, and then regurgitate it. Congratulations. Now, I'm not talking about doctors, lawyers, architects, engineers, people who absolutely need higher education. But is education really taking Black people higher? 25.4% of Black people have a bachelor's degree or higher. That's, 2022 statistics. Black graduates earn 67% more over a lifetime than just with a high school diploma. Not necessarily mad at that. Black men with degrees earn 50% of what white men do, and that's down from 59% in 1970. So that means we're going backwards. So here's my thing. Instead of focusing so much on a degree, how about we focus on education? Instead of focusing on minimum wage, how about we focus on maximum skills? See, we used to be craftsmen. We are the people who built America. I don't care what Colombian cosplayer John Leguizamo says. We built America, right? It was our ingenuity that made everything about this country even better, if not greater. I know you don't want to believe it, but we made America great first. I know America. I know it. I love it. Black people, we did it. Sometimes y'all get caught up on that, so I just did that to trigger you. But no, in all seriousness, we have to remember it's not about how well you do in school. It's how well you do in society and how well you score at the bank. But we're not looking at that because we want to go and get our education. Do you not realize that the majority of us have a really horrible, very askew debt to income ratio because we are mired in debilitating student loan debt? Because we're told to get underwater basket weaving degrees. Or we have been told because we were really good at Pop Warner football 20 years ago that if we just get to college, we can go ahead and get the education whilst we's trying to get one of a few hundred spots in the National Football League. Yeah, all of the end zone goals and hoop dreams just ain't paying off like you thought they would. You have a better chance of sleeping with Sports Illustrated Swimsuit Model of the Year on pay-per-view in front of Chad Ochocinco and the entirety of every cast of Basketball Wives than you do actually making it to the league. And then after that, the majority, and by majority, I mean 80% of athletes, if they make it in the majors, whether that's MLB, NBA, NFL, when they retire 4 years later, they're broke. Broke. And guess what? All the people that you went mom and them and cousin Winky who's trying to make a rap album, when you take care of everybody and you buy everybody a car and do all the things and everybody gets to sit in the skybox, when all that's over with, all those people are going to dissipate. But you know what doesn't dissipate? Your ability to get on the internet and go read a book. Right now, if you want an education, go read Powernomics. Dr. Claude Anderson, no relation, put out a phenomenal book. Read The Black History Reader, also by Dr. Claude Anderson. But you know what? Nobody else in society, and I do mean nobody else in society because you're still the same people who consider yourselves oppressed, would say that if you are oppressed, then you feel like white people are your enemy. No one else would allow their enemy to educate them. Nobody else would allow your enemy to have the most influence over their children? That just doesn't make any logical sense to me. And it says something that the education system has completely but eviscerated the presence of strong, straight, black male teachers. Because stats have shown that strong, straight, black male teachers have a longer lasting impact on our children, whether they be male or female. So, what are we really advocating for? Oh, you're the same people who say, well, Donald Trump's getting in there and he's trying to get rid of the US Department of Education. Do you know what the US Department of Education does without Googling it? You don't. But allow Uncle Dave to enlighten you. The US Department of Education doles out money. That's their function. And a lot of that money gets lost between the teachers' unions and the states who are mismanaging those funds, because look at where we're ranked when it comes to being a global superpower. We're damn near dead last in reading and mathematical computations. We're damn near last in reading and mathematical computations. Don't make me laugh. Don't get me started. I know there's an app for that, but it needs to be aptitude because we ain't hit it. So if in fact the average student means $35,000 just for showing up in school, where's that money going? We're keeping kids in school more than we ever did when we were kids. And when I say we, I mean anybody from 35 to 50. When we were kids, you had snow days. And you know what you did with those snow days? You went out, you built a fort, you played, you interacted with each other. Gym wasn't something that you could opt out for because you had asthma. You had to suck it up, Buttercup. There used to be a thing called a physical fitness test. Nah, we don't want that. The president of the United States used to have a physical fitness mandate. You want to know why? Because just in case the enemy decided to darken our shores with enemy ships and missiles and guns and athletic insurgent soldiers, whatever you want to call the enemy, we would be prepared. Ain't nobody scared of us because we're fat, we're lazy, we're slovenly, and we get away with absolutely everything because no one's holding us accountable. You don't even know who you are outside of watching what they tell you is okay. And even with that, when you really break this down, you're more concerned about them teaching our history to us. Oh, let's talk about the cavalcade of stars they give us. If you go to a good school, you might get Frederick Douglass, you might get Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Sojourner Truth. Oh, and let's not forget, because the only thing we've ever invented was peanut butter, we'll get George Washington Carver. We leave out the fact that he was an advisor to the Ford Motor Company and the plants and the assembly lines and all of that stuff came from him. We don't talk about that. We don't talk about Garrett Morgan. We don't talk about Lewis Latimer because let's face it, Edison was somebody who was on the spectrum whose mama deluded him into believing that he was a genius. He jacked most of Tesla's stuff, and I'm not talking about Elon's car. I'm talking about Nikola Tesla, somebody else they don't teach in school who is not black but very important to this conversation. Latimer not only developed a filament for the light bulb, but he was the one who wrote the patent for Edison's light bulb. But we don't have that conversation because you're not really being educated, but you're like, we need the education. Yeah, you do. To quote Kanye West, how, Sway? You ain't been doing the education. It is your job to teach your children at home what they need to know about themselves. You do not allow your enemy to indoctrinate you. The quickest way to destroy you is to convince you that you are somehow otherly, that you need to reject who you actually are and sign up to conformity. And by the way, you do realize that there is not only a school to prison pipeline, but there's a school to dead end job pipeline that is being filled, that has been fulfilled from John D. Rockefeller and all of his cronies financing what later became the U.S. Department of Education, which was founded by the late, great Jimmy Carter, who thought he was doing something to help us, and it has not helped us. By the way, did I tell you the annual operating budget of the U.S. Department of Education? It's $90 billion. Do you know what $90 billion can do if you just gave it to the states and got rid of all the fluff, all the muck, all the mire? But no, let's not do that because then you would have to have accountability. So y'all only show up when somebody gets graped, when somebody gets assaulted, when somebody does something to your baby, and by that point, the psychological scars are so deep, it's too late. The school board does not fear you. The mayor does not fear you. The city council does not fear you. And that's why the Federation of Teachers in your particular part of the world doesn't fear you either, because they know you're not going to do anything and you're going to let them run unchecked. So if you want to educate your children, how about you start with your own education? How about you educate yourself on how the system works, who's getting paid, who's benefiting from keeping your kid dumb while they get rich? Because not only are the textbook manufacturers in on it, the food business is in on it. I'm talking Pepsi, Coke, Sprite, Pizza Hut, Burger King. They're all in on it, and they love to make your kids fat. You think it's okay. And let's not forget all the kickbacks that come through very clandestine means to make sure that your kids are breaking their necks and basically breaking your wallets to make sure they have the latest fashion things that do not benefit them. I remember Will Smith famously saying, you go to school to learn, but not for a fashion show. But you automatically know that peer pressure is a mother. I can't say that on here, but you know it's the truth. You're not educating your child. You're leaving Instagram and TikTok to do it, and you're leaving primarily white women to educate your kid, and then you're wondering why your kid can't function. Most kids are, if you go down TikTok and you get caught in that rabbit hole, you will see 22-year-olds talking about, oh my gosh, I need to celebrate. I made my own doctor's appointment. I'm sorry. What? You're celebrating the fact that you made a doctor's appointment? Most of you couldn't order a sandwich if it wasn't for DoorDash. It doesn't seem like we're getting any smarter. The only thing that's getting smarter is smartphones and Chat GPT, and most of us won't even figure out how to write prompts in order to use those things properly. So before you start talking about how bad our situation is, you need to talk about how bad you are failing our children. Educate yourself about that and then get back to me.